Hello, SuperCoach Inner Sanctum fans. Welcome to the Inner Sanctum SuperCoach podcast, YouTube show, whatever you want to call it. Looking back on round 16 and ahead to round 17. 4 weeks left of the home and away SuperCoach season for most leagues. The full four of us here today. How are we doing, boys? All good?
Good, Scotty. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, not bad.
Mike's thumbs down because West Coast lost again, but they did work. They did try, which was good. Let's get stuck straight into it. The segment that we all love, our Nathan's and Gary's from round 16. Mike, I'm going to throw to you first. Who performed well and who not so well for your side this week?
Look, for the third time this year, I either finished the round either tied or just in front of my opponent, and with the adjustments ended up losing. So I'm absolutely livid, but I only have myself to blame for this round. My Gary would have been Nick Dacos, 149 points, and I had the C on him up until about 4 minutes before the bounce. For those who sort of listened in last week, we spoke about Rowan Marshall as the potential captain opportunity. I went with him. He dominated the game. He only got 104 points. He really should be my Nathan as well. But my Nathan this week is going to go to this bloke. And he has got to be Will Day, the other side. Will Day, again, spilling out a 60, 68 odd, even though he had 26 possessions. Efficiency was down below 70. Gave away 3 free kicks. I watched him. He butchers the ball a lot. And I got sucked in earlier in the year when he scores well above 100, and he's been absolutely putrid since. So, Will Day, you are on my never to be picked again list for next year.
Nice one. That's it. I'm looking forward to we talk about our blacklist for 2024 later in the year. Dan, how about you, mate? How'd your round go?
Round was okay. I just we were talking about it before. I'm kind of at the point where I just look at my team and I go, what have I done? So I think it was like 23.50 or something, but it's just still no good. My Gary was definitely this guy, 143 points for Lockie Neal. Then my Nathan, look, I'd have to go with Timmy Taranto, pretty miserable, 72 points. I think he was getting a bit of attention, but geez, he was pretty useless in that game.
Yeah,
10% efficiency.
That's it. And plenty of people had the bloody C on him, so that didn't help at all. So, and then cop that with Dunkley also getting subbed out at 3/4 time, please. Mick, where are you, mate? How'd you go? Who's your Nathan and Gary for us this week?
I have a terrible score, 2 out of 4 league wins with 23.96. So definitely some room for improvement, but not horrible. I'm going to put the Nathan on Rory Laird this week. A pretty disappointing 85 from him, and I think a lot of people would have bought him in the last few weeks after his bye. Paid top dollar for him. He only had 24 touches, and only 8 of those were kicks on the weekend. So that's hence his score being what it was. So pretty disappointing day out for Rory. And I'm going to put this fella, young Connor Rosie, as my Gary for the week. He a very impressive. My computer's gone to sleep as usual. Sorry, boys. I had 41 from Connor, so he played really well for Port again on the weekend. So 23 touches at 82%, and he had 3 goals and 9 tackles. So very impressive game from the young lad.
Yeah, I think by this stage of the season, if you can't think of 4 or 5 or 6 Garys for your side must be not that flash. Which says a lot about us that we struggle to find them. But after last week's show where we talked about the sort of points of difference the ones we go, oh, yeah. And one of us talked about Josh Kelly. I can't remember who it was. And I thought, oh, yeah, I'm listening to that advice. And I ummed and ahed between him and Zach Merritt. Chose Jelly at the last minute. And the difference in their scores was the difference to me getting a couple of wins. So, Jelly, if I had the photos of any of the champion data scorers, I would put them here as well, because how can someone have 30 odd, kick the match winning goal, and only score 90 odd? He's a bit beyond me. But anyway, lift your game, Jelly. Maybe some good disposal efficiency would be handy. Cool. So this week I thought we would let's talk about Clayton Oliver again, because why wouldn't you? We talked about him last week about whether you should hold him or not, or whether he's worth bringing back in. Dan, I'm just going to throw to you. We won't necessarily all talk about him, but I know you've still got him. So what are your thoughts this week? It is Tuesday when we're filming this. Some people reported he's training this week. Others report he may not play. What are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. The last news I heard was he's going to be missing for another 2 weeks. And look, I'm at the point where I'm looking at the league. I'm looking at where I am, and it's sort of do or die sort of points now. So it's really coming down to it in terms of what I do this week. Getting rid of him just burns through another one of those trades that you're looking at, and with not too many left. I don't know. I'm going to need to toss it up, but it is do or die sort of thing. So I may as well. What is he? 660,000.
Yeah.
Sitting there and doing nothing. So he might have to get turfed just to bring in some points.
So your advice for hundreds of listeners is to think about it.
It's Tuesday. We don't know. If he's not named, get rid of him.
Yeah.
If he's named, keep him. There you go.
Perfect. Yes, we did talk about last week about how you may be worth, if you don't have him, considering bringing him in when he actually plays. But I suspect there's something else going on. I don't know why it's taken so long for him to get back in. But you heard it here first. If he doesn't play, chop him. All good. Mick or Mike, anything else to add on Clayton?
No, I think we've spoken about the rumours. We've spoken about the blood blister. We've spoken about the hamstring. We'll probably find something else to speak about next week. Maybe he dyed his hair from that Ranga colour. Who knows?
Well, if you're watching Clayton, I just went to a ginger factory yesterday and I didn't see you there, so it was a bit disappointing. Cool. What else we thought I might do as well this week is actually look at people's strategies depending on where they are placed in their league with 4 rounds to go before the SuperCoach finals for most. We might start with you, Mike. I want you to pretend that your side is in struggle town and probably needs to win the remaining 4 games to make it. I know your side probably needs to win 6 of the 4, but let's just pretend you need to win all 4. What advice have you got?
Yeah, well, I think Struggle Town for me is an understatement. I'm rooted to the bottom of both of my leagues, and I can't make either of them. And one of them's a group of 10. So that's saying something. I don't think I've ever had as poor of a SuperCoach season as this before. Coming off a grand final appearance last year to the bottom, very West Coast-esque. Look, I think you've really got to manage your trades. If you are in contention, if you're just outside the 8, hoping to break in, if you're just outside the 4, it's obviously with a double chance is worth it. It's really trade management now. 4 rounds left. You've got to be, for those who have got, more than sort of 8, 9 trades, there's a real opportunity to fill up your side with still some trades left over. So that's, I don't have the trades to burn, nor am I in the position to really strategize for them. But if I was there, it'd all be about, well, who don't you have that you want to get in, and how you're going to get there with the trades you've got with some up your sleeve for injuries and finals.
Cool. Dan, what about you, mate? Say you're, say you just finished 7th or 8th at the moment, keeping in mind that you probably need some trades for finals, but you want to make the finals. What advice have you got for someone who's just clinging into the top 8 with 4 rounds to go?
Yeah, I think it's looking at your team, making those tough calls on who, maybe doesn't really deserve a spot in your final team, but you probably need to carry them just because you don't want to burn another trade to sort of bring in that top primo. I think players like, I think we're going to have a chat about him in a moment. Players like Callum Mills or some of those sort of fallen premiums might be worth looking into. If you can top up your team with those players and they can flick a switch and start playing some decent football, you might be in with a chance to pull out a few hundreds from from players that are well under the 500,000 mark, it might just mean that you might be able to, field that those 22 premiums rather than, sort of languishing with a couple of those rookies still in your team.
Yeah, that's right. There's not many rookies out there worth really having a crack at. You could go, Bont and I don't know, Fletcher from Brisbane, someone like that, or you could go a Mills and a Hewitt, and which one's probably going to get you more points? That's where you've got to sort of weigh up. Mick, what about you? What happens if you say your team's in flying top 4 in the league? What's some advice you'd give people out there?
Actually, I'm in 4 leagues, and one of them, well, 2 of them, I'm comfortably making finals. One of them, I'm definitely not. I'm sitting second last, and then the other one, I'm sitting 7th out of a 10-man league, but only five make the finals in that league. So it's very delicately poised. I mean, I'll just talk about my own personal situation. 6 trades. I'm 3 away from full primo. And sorry, 2 away from full primo. I've still got good bench cover with the likes of Phillips, Wardlaw, Malikan, and I've kept Sicily in my team through his suspension. So I've got to try one more week without him to try and get a league win in this league that's actually my money league. So it's the one I probably want to win the most out of any of them. And if I don't win this week, I think finals are out of the question. So it's a really tough one. I think Phillips, can still make me some money, as could Wardlaw, as could Malikan, as could Marich. But they're not going to be good enough to beat my opponent, who is probably 1 away from full primo. So it's a really tough balance. I suppose you just got to focus on which league is the most important to you to win, if there is one, and maybe just build your strategy around that based on who you're playing this week and how he's been performing the last few weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. And what about let's just pretend, I don't know if any of us have actually finished in the top couple of thousand, or even top 1,000, but Dan, I'll give you a crack at it. What would your strategy be if you happen to be in the top 1,000? I doubt any of the top 1,000 are watching us.
Well,
but
yeah,
you never know.
Look, I was there. I was there at one stage. I was in the inside the top 200 going into the last 2 rounds, and I just remember that there was a point of contention. I had one of those calls like your Zach Merritt versus bringing in Josh Kelly sort of situation. I had Lockie Whitfield there to bring in, or basically I had cash for any other midfielder. Brought him in. He got tagged for the next 2 weeks, the only 2 weeks he was ever tagged in his bloody life, and slipped about 80 spots down to 216 or something in the last little bit. I just think that it's one of the toughest things to like weigh up, because if you're in that top 1,000, you're probably hopefully in your top 4 for your league as well. I think honestly, if you're behind by 300, 400, 500 points or something, put the Q in the rack and just win the league. Don't go chasing that overall spot. It's just, it doesn't do anything for you. You don't get the sort of accolades unless you win it overall. Like, there's just no point in chasing that overall spot.
Yes, next year as a group, when we make our own side and it's leading the whole comp after 16 rounds, we'll be well and truly watched by everyone. So that's the aim this year. Well, there's some advice for all of you out there. Just keep chasing wins, burn some trades. I think that's where we're all at, really. You can't use them if you don't make the finals. So have a swing, have a crack. I will say, though, that like we talked about a bit last week or the week before, I think that not that many people are going to be full primo, I don't reckon, as opposed to previous years. I think injuries and random other stuff has actually meant that people have burnt more trades than they might have wanted to, and have to keep Wardlaws and Phillips, and I've still got Sheasel running around and things like that. So don't be afraid to give those guys a go and see how they go. You never know. So one thing we might talk about as well before we finish up is just so we might mention a couple of blokes who have dropped heaps. The fallen primos, but just the year's not been their friend at all, and whether we think that they might be worth bringing in. A couple have been mentioned already. I might start with you, Mike. If you got one for adoring fans out there who we could go, yep, rather than trying to aim for the Bonts and Olivers, what about this bloke?
Yeah, well, I'm not from last year because there's a few, and I'll leave those to you guys that we've already spoken about. But I don't know if he's back this week or next week. But Jeremy Cameron's one who's dropped 200,000. I know he went up early in the year when he was in rare form. Got knocked out by one of his best mates. But if he's back this week or the week after, he's dropped by nearly 200K since when he was absolutely firing earlier in the year. And he might be one to pick up, especially there's not a lot of great depth in your forward line, and he's coming in at just over 400,000, I believe. Not too much more than that, so someone to consider if he's back playing.
Oh, definitely five of. I was going to actually mention him as well. 5 of 8 games in Geelong. If he gets back, I mean, he's had his lull now. I reckon he's going to storm home at the end of the year. So that's a good one for sure. Dan, what about you, mate? Who you got for us? Might want to consider maybe a mid or a defender.
Yeah, we were looking at a few names, and we're talking about a few of them before that have had sort of injury troubles, and I'm sure we're going to mention one of the famous cats in a moment. I'm sure you'd be talking him up. Yeah, look, the guy that I'm just going to do it, and I've actually already done it this year. I've already rolled the dice on this guy this year, and you know what happened? He pinged his calf in the first bloody centre bounce contest, and he was out. And he scored 4 points. He went down 50,000 in 1 week. I'm going to do it again. And I'm bringing in Callum Mills. And because what have I got to lose at this point? He's 400,000. He scored 104 on the weekend. He's back playing the more sort of midfield time. He's got the Tigers on Thursday night footy. I think he can do it. I don't know. Oh, why not? I got nothing to lose. So Callum Mills, do it. Just big 120.
Oh, crap.
I'm going to do it too. Someone's going to listen to the advice on this show. I'm in. I'll keep in. I don't know who to get rid of, Eddie Ford or George Wardlaw. My God. Mick, what about you, mate? You got one or two for us? So we can go, well, he might be a bit different for us to finish off the season.
Well, he's already in 15% of teams, but he would have started off the season in a hell of a lot more, which is Paddy Cripps. Who started the season at around 610,000, and now you can pick him up for a bargain price of 465. So he's dropped about 150K, and
probably a reason
last 2 weeks, 117 and 104 though. So yeah, he had a really average patch there in the middle where he didn't crack a ton between rounds 8 and 13, but now the last 2 he's had a 117 to 104. So maybe worth looking at. It's if you're struggling for not just trades, but also for cash because your rookies just haven't been generating enough for you to bring in those 600+ K players. Then just like Callum Mills, I think Paddy could be an interesting choice, and almost becoming a bit of a pod at 15% ownership. That's not overly high, so it'll separate you out from quite a few other coaches in your league.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm going to steer clear. I got another Carlton one for us, though. I just guess if he can actually get a game, and like everyone wanted George Hewitt last year, and his fall from grace from Carlton. I know he's been injured, and he was the sub on the weekend. I think if he gets a game this week, that he is one potentially you could consider. Dan, you're the Carlton man. I'll let you tell us whether you think he's going to be any good.
Look, not many of our players have been any good this year, so surely one of them can play some good footy. I just think it was an interesting thing. Last year, he's just sort of obviously came down from Sydney, and we were playing that weird sort of contested brand of footy where we just sort of beat up teams around the ball and then got it free. And he was a really big part of that last year. For whatever reason, Vossi's gone away from the method that was actually winning his games and playing some other weird sort of game style now. So I don't know. I think if they go back to contest sort of footy, he's the guy that you want in there. He's the guy that will get points. But I'd be steering clear of Hewitt or any Carlton player, to be honest. Just stay away from us. We're better off just doing our own thing. We don't want to let anyone down. So just stay away from Carlton players and you'll be happy.
That's great advice. One of my boys, like you mentioned, that I would not consider this week. I reckon you're probably looking at if he's playing still in 3 weeks and you're getting to the finals, you go, I just want to make a trade and get someone at 120 odd thousand is danger. Like I said, the 5 of 8 Geelong games down in Geelong. He's just come back from injury again. So last year he ramped up his time on ground and his centre bouncer percentage attendance as the season progressed. So I would just keep an eye on those as we head forward as well. And there's one other one, but we thought we would not mention him because I reckon, Dan, he's going to be the rage trade for this week. Over to you.
Yeah, so this guy has been one of those players that for probably about the last 3 or 4 seasons, he's been a lock in the midfield, scoring big points, virtually untaggable. Just one of those people just keep going on. But this year something's changed. He got injured early on, and since then Jack Steele has absolutely stunk it up. He's not even in my team, but he's my rage trade for this week. So is that terrible? That if I brought him in, he'd be straight out. All right. So just take care of Jack Steele. I don't have any trades left to do a true rage trade on any of my premiums at this point. So I've just been turfing out those players I don't have. And if I had Tim Kelly, he'd be gone too. All right. Just wanna put that one out there. Laid outs, they just kill you. So
from that, it's not your rage trade corner anymore. It's just your if I had them rage trade corner.
Yeah.
That's fine.
If I had them, they'd be gone. Yeah.
Fair point. You don't want to trade out any more.
If you've got them, they should go.
That's right. Jack Steele owners out there, I'll be disappointed if you don't flick him.
Yeah. You've been warned. You
have been warned. We will watch this space and you can talk about your pretend rage trade next week. In fact, how about this, SuperCoach owners? Considering the quality advice we're giving you all year, bring him in. Just bring him in this week and he's going to dominate. That's it. I'm bringing in Steele and Mills. All right, there we go.
And Mitch Duncan.
Yeah.
And Mitch Duncan.
No Mitch Duncan. All right, Mike, captain's advice for the upcoming round.
Look, there's a few options. Bont's playing early, and both Dunkley, I assume he's going to play, and Lockie Neal. No, not playing.
No, I'm up here in Queensland. He's out. I saw him down the street, and he said, "I'm out."
Okay, well, Lockie Neal might get the C, given he's against the Witches' hats. That could get ugly. They might bring in about 5 new players actually, just to give them a go. They're going to still win, so I think I'm going to be looking at Neal this round, and I'm not going to get creative like I did last round, thinking that I could stray away from those ones who continually score 130 plus for someone who's potentially a yo-yo. So get on those who are consistently high scorers for your captains. There's plenty of options this round.
Nice one, Dan. Any left field captains ones maybe, or who are you thinking?
Nah, look, I do like the idea of Lockie Neal. I think he's definitely one that can score big, and he's playing West Coast. I'm just looking at that Thursday night game and the possibility of maybe an Errol Goulden who has
Callum Mills.
Who Errol Goulden has scored some massive returns throughout the year, 150s on 3+ occasions or something like that. And it's against Richmond. I at the MCG, but I just don't. I don't really see why Richmond, after their performance on the weekend, are now favourites for that game. So it's going to be an interesting one. And I think it's going to be Buddy's last game at the MCG as well. They're talking about that.
Yeah.
It could be an interesting one.
Maybe the Melican Mick. He could be the vice captain. Your thoughts, mate?
I think it's time now. I think for me, the one league I'm going to be focusing on is to start playing the man rather than playing the ball. So keep a really good eye on what my opponent's doing this week. I badly need a win in one particular league, so I'll be keeping an eye on who he VCs. And then working my strategy around that so that just totally maximise my potential of winning that particular league. I can not worry about the other 3. I've got that sort of luxury this week, and that one league I'm going to be focusing on. I'll be making all my CVC any kind of bench cover choices based on what he does and how he starts. So that's I think about the time of the season to start looking at doing that if you get the chance.
I reckon that's some very sound advice there. If you like Mike though, and out of all leagues, you probably just throw it on whoever, Mike. All good. That's it for us this week, guys. Thanks to those who are still watching each week. Thanks, boys, for joining me again. Check out Inner Sanctum's website. Watch their other YouTube shows, and we'll be back with you again next week. Thanks, guys.